Here in the South, everybody knows somebody who makes their own wine. A lot of people know somebody who makes moonshine too, but that would be illegal. Home winemaking is legal, and it's becoming a lost art. I do say lost art because winemaking is really as much of an art as it is a science. Today, I'm going to show you how to make wine out of fresh strawberries. I got about 6 pounds of strawberries and I just took the stems off, and the first thing I'm going to do is put them in the food processor to grind them all up into a paste. Look at the size of some of these strawberries. You can use old wilted strawberries if you want, that's fine. Now, fruit juice by itself doesn't have enough sugar to be fermented into a proper wine. Wine needs to be at least 10% alcohol to avoid spoiling on the shelf. Now, grape juice, for example, has about 10 to 15% sugar content, and it'll produce about 6 to 7% alcohol. Again, that's not meeting our 10% requirement for wine. I haven't measured the sugar content of these strawberries, but based on my experience, they're not going to have enough sugar either, so I'm going to add sugar. My goal for today is to make about 2 gallons of wine from this 6 pounds of strawberry pulp. Now, I've got to add water to it because there's not enough water in the strawberry pulp, and I've also got to add sugar to that water. Based on my experience in the past, I have to add about 8 pounds of sugar to those 2 gallons of water. To measure the sugar content, I'm going to use this device called a hydrometer. Hydrometers measure the amount of sugar, and it's really measuring the specific gravity from 0.99 all the way up to 1.16. Now, as a reference, 1.000 is plain water. So let's put this in the hydrometer test jar, and we're going to take a sample of our strawberry solution. And we can see that the specific gravity is 1.07 something. I'm aiming for 1.09 for an initial sugar content for a medium sweet wine. Because this doesn't have enough sugar, I'm going to dump this back in, and I'm going to add more sugar to the must. That's the material that's going to be fermented. This is where I said it's more of an art than a science. Let's take another reading. Now all we have to do is add the yeast. This isn't any normal yeast, this is wine yeast. Wine yeast will produce a better quality product than, say, baker's yeast. You can buy these little packs of yeast for less than $1 online, and there's many varieties of yeast packs. This is Montrachet, there's Pasteur Red, there's Premier Cuvée. Look online at beer and winemaking catalogs and see which one you like the best. Finally, just stir that yeast in to dissolve it, and then we'll talk about the airlock. After you stir in the yeast, go ahead and close your fermenter. Now, this fermenter has been equipped with a little O-ring through which an airlock is placed. This is an airlock that you can buy very inexpensively, again through winemaking catalogs, beer and winemaking catalogs. And as the gas escapes the fermenter, it'll come through the airlock. And that gas is mostly carbon dioxide. Again, the yeast cells convert sugar into alcohol and release carbon dioxide as a byproduct. After you've adjusted the sugar content, added the yeast, closed the fermenter, and put the airlock in, go ahead and put this whole fermenter in a dark, climate-controlled room at room temperature until the bubbling stops. That may take several months or even a year until the wine is complete. Alright, this is the batch I just set up, and you can see that it's bubbling, which means it's fermenting. This is a batch that I did last year, and so it should be done. It stopped bubbling. Now I'm going to transfer it from this fermenter into a glass carboy. And you could just use a mouth siphon, but I've got this fancy little automatic pump. So the first thing I do is take the lid off, and I'm trying not to disturb too much of the sediment that may be at the bottom. Okay, you see, it still has maybe a little bit of what's called secondary fermentation left to go. I see some bubbles, it's smelling really good, but let's go ahead and transfer it. All right, so this is an automatic siphon. Go ahead, hit the button. There it goes. This machine makes life easier if you do a lot of winemaking. So this is the remaining pulp, and I tried to siphon off as much of the wine as possible. You can see it's pretty clear, and I put another airlock in these just in case I have it in these gallon-sized glass carboys for a little while longer. But let's look at our specific gravity reading. If you remember from earlier, we started at 1.09, and that'd be way down here. We are now below 1.0. We are below 0.990. So let me show you how to do the calculation to figure out the alcohol content. If we look at this little chart, we've got the specific gravity over here, and we started at 1.09. That translates to 11.8% potential alcohol. So we started at 11.8% potential. Now, if we had gone to 1.0, then we would just say it's 11.8% alcohol, finished product. But we actually went up here to 0.990 or less. And so this means we have to actually subtract a negative 1.3. And that means that it becomes a positive. So what we end up with is 8 and 3 is 11. Carry the 1. This is 3 and then 1. So our finished alcohol product is 13.1% alcohol. That's a pretty high octane wine. Now let's give it a taste. Waste not, want not. Okay, you can see that this still has some chunks of cloudiness in it, so I'll let it settle in here before I bottle it. But I don't mind drinking the yeasty beasties. Oh my God, I wish you could taste this. I wish you could taste how good this is. Just the slightest little hint of strawberry, just those fruity esters. Very dry, very smooth. This is my favorite homemade wine.